Hey, welcome to the show today. It's John, the Net Guy, and I'm here to show you how to put a very large graphics card into the Dell Optiplex 9020. Now, this is my personal Dell 9020, and I wanted to play some Fortnite with my kids. I was going to upgrade to a faster graphics card. I know that game doesn't quite need it, but I found out that this 6800, the RX 6800 I've got, doesn't fit. Not by even a long shot. I've got at least half a drive cage here that's in the way. I know that this is a pretty big graphics card for this unit already, but just to show you, this is an RX 580. That card doesn't fit in either with that drive cage. So already having some size and fitment issues. I picked up during COVID here in the graphics card crunch, I picked up a GTX 1070, another great card. Would play really nicely. This card as well, too big. So I'm going to have to take out the drive cage if we're going to want to put a larger graphics card in this. It's a pretty simple job. You're going to need a few tools. I'm going to cover all of that in this video. We're going to go step by step, and it's absolutely something you can totally DIY yourself, and it unlocks some really cool graphics card options. A little bit about this machine. This machine has been upgraded. I've replaced the factory power supply. I've got another great video I'm going to link up here in the cards. You'll be able to see it about replacing the power supply so you can start to use a lot larger graphics cards with these machines. When I did that, I also put in a power supply adapter. This is a 24 to 8 pin adapter. It's special for this Dell. The link's in the video description. So if you want to put a large graphics card in a Dell 9020, a 9010, a 7020, or a Dell 7010. These are all very, very similar models, and it's the same parts to do that. So without any more delay, I'm going to go through the process. First things first, this thing is dirty. It sits under my desk and it collects dust, obviously. So we're going to have to clean it out. Now, normally I would do this outside, but I'm going to show you guys a little bit about what to do. Compressed air works really well. These things, the nice thing about them is that they're not incredibly powerful. You're not going to over, do it. You're not going to be blowing parts off the boards or anything. But what I will recommend is be real careful when you're around these fans. It sounds really cool when you rev them up and you hit the button and they go ving. Yeah. All that's doing is burning the bearings out. So depending if they're sleeved or roller bearings in these, it's not good on the bearings. Same thing with the rear fan here. Same thing with your power supply fan. So depending on the condition of the machine, this is a good time to blow it out. On three, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe that wasn't so bad. Now I'm going to hold the CPU fan while I spray the CPU out. And again, the purpose of that is to keep it from getting over red. Same thing with the rear fan. And if you're cleaning the fan blades, you can get them from both sides. So you can hold the fan and then spray it from both sides so that you're getting clean there. Now, there are a few things that we're going to have to do. There are 5 rivets along the bottom, and there's 5 rivets along the front. This is a great opportunity to show you how you can remove the front of this case. It's good to work on something like a bench or the edge of a desk like I have here. I'm going to set the system sideways. I want to show you guys something on how you can very, very easily take this machine apart. Now, there are 4 clips holding the front panel of the Dell 9020 on. They're right here. And just by lifting these up, 1, 2, 3, 4, I've loosened the front panel to the point where it will come off now. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. Just tilting it downward. It's got some clips that'll hold it in, just like that. Now, what's interesting is they give you a few extra screws here on the back of this plate. This is also really dirty. Get rid of that. We'll set that off to the side. And I can spray through the front now. Perfect. I can get some of that extra dust out. Okay, cool. In here, these are not rivets anymore. They're just some sort of friction weld, some sort of spot weld. And so we're going to take these three out here and these two out here. Big shout out thanks to Dan from PC Tech Hustle. He actually showed me originally how to do this the very first time. Very interesting. You know, he's gone through some of these steps. His camera didn't capture it all, but hopefully today this one does. A couple things about what you're going to need to do this job. You're going to need some good drill bits. Now, the size of the drill bit doesn't exactly matter as much as the type of drill bit. You want a metal cutting drill bit made out of high-speed steel or better. If you get a wood cutting drill bit like this one here that has a point, it's actually not going to drill the rivets out. It's going to rattle around in there and it's not going to do what you want. So no wood cutting, no real sharp pointed drill bits. Let's put those to the side. You can use a larger bit. This is a 1/4 inch size drill bit. Anything from 3/16 up to a 1/4 would be fine for this job. This one's a little bit larger, but it's going to help me when we get into here to release some of these. You can use, like I said, the smaller size. This is a 3/16. As long as it removes the metal that's holding this on the ridge there, that's what you want. And the most important thing is the sharpness. This is an example of one that's incredibly dull. It's almost mushroomed or rounded. Throw this thing out. It's no good. Don't want to use that in the process. This one is a 3/16 and it is incredibly sharp and ready to go. And this one here is a 1/4 inch and it is also really sharp and ready to go. So I like to start with the bottom here. Now I'm going to work on an area and I'm going to use something to catch those little metal shavings. I'm just going to use an extra envelope that I have here. So when these little tiny shavings come out, that they have somewhere to go, and then I can pick those up and dispose of them. So I'm going to use the smaller size of the drill bits again. This is the 3/16 drill bit. I'm just going to show you guys how that works. You're going to need a corded or cordless drill. And the ones we're talking about on the bottom are right here, 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 and here. It's these front 5 rivets that we need to work on. Now, the other thing here is you don't need a ton of pressure. This is really soft metal that we're going to be drilling into. You also don't need a ton of speed. So speed when you're cutting in metal is not as important. It's just continuous light pressure, because we're just going to take the top of that rivet off. And that almost is it. Okay, now if the rivet starts to move a little bit like it's doing, you can try a little bit of an angle. There you go. It's all it needed right there. It's just enough to remove that rivet. And it, like I said, if it starts to spin on you, you can do a little bit of an angle. That puts a little less circular force on it. Perfect. Again, just took the top of the rivet off and released it. Didn't go any deeper than that. Didn't need to. That one was perfect. So the rivet stayed on there, and we just took the part that's holding it from going through the hole off. Same thing with that one. Just consistent light pressure. Now, we've got all those, and the back side of this drive cage is loose. I can feel it if I move it around. We're going to switch over to the front now. This one's a little bit more difficult because the holes here are welded through. They're not quite like a rivet material. They're almost like a friction weld or a stir weld. And so what we're going to need to do is release it. I'm going to use, again, the small size. And I'm just going to angle right to the center of the hole here. And I'm going to go very light. Until, there we go. So that little tiny piece of metal was all that was holding it on. I'm going to do the same to the next one. And I just heard a popping sound, so I know that that little tiny piece of metal was all that was holding it. And I'm going to do this next one. Perfect. Now I can feel the drive cage is already getting loose. There's the last two are in these kind of concave or convex areas, these concaved areas. The nice thing on these is they don't spin. So I'm going to do this last one. Be real careful again not to push super hard, push through. The connectors here are on the power connectors are right on the back. You can unhook those and move those if you're worried. But I'm just using real light pressure. A good sharp drill bit helps a lot. Again, I'll put some links in the description here. Okay, now this drive cage is actually loose. Oh, I found one more. This guy right here, this front rivet needs to go. That's holding the very front on. It's not letting me take it. So that's one more final rivet. Perfect. Okay. I'm removing the last SATA connectors and power connectors off the drive cage because it is ready to come out. Tilt it upward. And just wiggle it a little bit back and forth and it will come off of the back. There we go. Okay, now that's removed. That's the drive cage right there. Now the ones that were in the very back, you're not going to be able to get to these with standard drill bits and standard tools. So that's, again, you're just going to have to pop those by wiggling the drive cage like I showed you. But the rivets that we were working on were these ones here that were attached through the front and these ones here that were attached through the bottom. So we've gotten all of those taken out. There we go. Now, if you want to, you can take this last plate out. I've seen some people do that. You have just a few more of these, little through-hole pinch points where it's connected. You can take that out. I'm going to leave it. I don't think it looks that bad. The next thing I would recommend, because we've no doubt left a couple pieces of rivets in here and extra shavings of metal, if you have a microfiber cloth, take that soaked with a little bit of water, and you can pick up all that stuff. They love microfiber, Dust does too. And I'm picking up all of those little pieces or shavings. You don't have to take the entire computer apart if you don't want to. And it looks like we did a good job. Nothing is held on in there. Perfect. So now I'm going to show you how to put the front back on. So with the computer laying on its back, make sure to index these bottom clips down here. Make sure those are in good at the bottom before you try to force this in. If it's not going in, you've got something wrong. If your USB ports aren't lined up here, there's something wrong. Stop and readjust it. It should click on nice and evenly. Try working from one side down to the other. And if everything works out, everything lines up, it looks good, so the front's back on. Okay, so as you can see, we have a ton of room. There are two things up here. One is a speaker, so your PC speaker can go back up here somewhere. You can figure out a way to reattach it to the front. There's also a little thermal probe. This is the one that the machine uses to determine how hot it's getting, so I would highly recommend with this one that you place it somewhere where you've got direct airflow. This is a good spot up here. And this is my power adapter. I'm going to try to move that out of the way as much as possible. And then I'm going to put my PC speaker back in the lower corner here. Now, some graphics cards are going to have a fitment issue here in the front where we've got this USB 3 header. So another fitment issue. If you've got a graphics card with a very large backplate like this RX 580 does, you actually may have issues with fitment with the RAM retaining clips here. So in this case, this graphics card does not want to fit in here you would have to modify those clips, something I'm not going to do. So I'm going to switch to a different graphics card with a slightly lower bezel on the back, and we're going to slide that right in. So this is a GTX 1070 from MSI, and that fits nicely now. And that actually does clear barely the USB 3 port. So that's the 1070 in there. I'm going to hook the PCI Express power up to it. This one takes an 8-pin and a 6-pin. Line that up. And I would highly recommend to always have a spare parts kit. This box here actually contains all the spare parts from various builds. It's got a few extra screws. In my case, the retainer right here that flips over to hold down the graphics cards or other accessories doesn't work anymore. And I'm missing a few slot covers, so I'm actually going to go in here to my spare parts and find a few of the extra slot covers. Awesome, so we're all done. Now I've got a Dell 9020 with a GTX 1070 8GB in here. I should be ready to play almost all the games that I want to at this point. Couple things to remember: it's not about speed, just slow, consistent pressure. You don't have to push real hard. Just drill out. Again, you're turning this into little fine metal shavings here. We're taking off just this really soft metal. You're not going to be able to get to those last 4 in the back, so you are going to have to pry a little to pop them off. There were 5 rivets on the bottom, and there were 6 total drilling spots on the front, and it's a totally easy mod that you can do, and you can fit a much larger graphics card in. Again, if your graphics card has a very large backplate, might have to cut down or modify the retaining clips for your RAM. That's just going to be the cost of what it's going to take if you want to put a much larger graphics card in this. They did not leave a lot of clearance with the motherboard design the way that they have it. So I'm excited. I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up, and then I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, and we're going to see how fast it runs. And just like that, with a new graphics card, I'm averaging over 50 FPS with a 1% low of 47 on a Dell 9020, and I'm using a GTX 1070 with 8 gigs, all medium settings, full HD. So it's definitely possible to put a larger graphics card than the standard 470s, 570s, and other smaller graphics cards like the GTX 1060s and others. You can fit the larger 2080s, the 1070s, the 6800s, the 5700s. You can fit some of these massive graphics cards in here with a little bit of extra effort, and the reward is great. I'm sure it's going to play Fortnite and Rocket League and some of these other esports titles well into the 200 FPS. If you do have any other questions about this mod, check out the comments. Tell me if you've done it before. Tell me what you might do differently. Looking forward to all the advice that you guys have, and thanks again for supporting this channel. This has been John for the Net Guy. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of my video. If you want, do me a solid, hit the like button down there, and if you didn't like it, tell me why in the comments. I would love to help you out. If you do need some tech help, you can hit us up on the Discord channel, links in the description below. And why not check out one of these other great videos? It's okay, I'll wait.